Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka. It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Baka. We are an anime podcast where every 2 weeks we watch an anime and we come together to discuss it with you like a book club, except for we watched just more TV because America. Anyway, yeah, we watched an anime and we want to discuss it with you. And then we turn our discussion over to you to carry on in the comments to tell us why we were right, why we were wrong. Emphasis on that one. And join in our discussion. And this is a special episode because for the first time, we let you pick the anime. Now, we've taken listener suggestions in the past, but we actually took suggestions and put them in a democratic voter process, and you guys battled it out, and you picked an anime, and we can't believe this one won. What the heck happened?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
But, and I need to introduce my co-host, and I got a little rant I want to do because I've been thinking about what happened a lot. So guys, just bear with me. And if this isn't normal for the podcast, if this is your first time, just skip forward. But when we made this podcast, one of the big things we were looking for, one of the things I was looking for is I really just wanted someone to talk to about anime. I remember going to Jeremy and being like, hey, have you seen Gurren Lagann? And he's like, hey, have you seen this anime? And we were both like, no. And to Jeremy's credit, he tried Gurren Lagann, but he didn't get very far. And I was like, man, I wish something made him finish.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
But also, I wish something had made me. To be fair, but also I wish someone had made me watch his anime so we could have discussions. And that was one of the kind of multiple things that came together to help form this podcast. So we had this big vote, and there is some stellar anime on there. There's Black Lagoon, there's Death Parade, stuff that I thought for sure would win, and it didn't. Instead, Akiba Maid War is the anime we're discussing today. And I went on YouTube and I typed in Akiba Maid War, and there's no immediately, big anime reviewers talking about it. There are reviews. If you search reviews, you can find some. But I just thought it was really cool that someone was like, man, I just want someone to talk about this anime with me, for me. And we came up with a process that made that happen. So, it's not nothing against the animes that didn't get picked. I do really want to get back to them. We're talking about how we can bring some of those back in the future. But I just thought this whole process was so cool. And after having watched the anime, I'm just really excited that the podcast kind of lived up to one of its dreams, its goals, that we're helping someone else get to discuss this anime. So do join in on the discussion for Akiba Maid War. And with that, let's introduce the co-hosts. They deserve to get to speak. First off, we have the Charlotte to my Wilbur with his cold take, a take on anime that everyone has to agree with.
ReZero kind of redeemed isekai, brought it back from sort of dark place that it had become, it had gone into.
So chilly. We also have the Ferdinand to my babe. Jason, what's yours?
That isekai is overdone.
You jerk. I mean, you're right, though.
Brrr. Mine was that the 7 Deadly Sins had a lot of potential, but just flushed it all down the toilet.
No, really? Oh, we'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah, it doesn't live up. It goes bad. Guys, imagine your main character holding a baby and saying, "Hands off my woman."
It sounds very anime.
Yeah, there's context to that, but that is now what it's infamous for, that scene. Anyway, we're not here to talk about
that is a scene that happened, huh?
Yeah.
Oof.
We're here to discuss Akiba Maid War, and we're going to start with our non-spoiler reviews to let you know how we what we thought about it, and if we recommend it. Jeremy, why don't you kick us off?
So to me, this is such a strange anime. It almost feels like there's two different anime that I'm watching at the same time. One of them is sort of mafia, street wars, very serious, terrible things are happening, no holds barred. The other is just like funny and cutesy and silly and moi moi kyun kyun. And the two are both done very well, but I don't know that they work that well together, even though that's the joke of it. So I don't know, I'm still struggling with it. I don't dislike it. I did like it, and especially there were parts of it that, like, individually, those parts, I'm not going to spoil anything, so I'm not going to tell you where they are, but there are specific parts in this that add like an entire point to what I think of this anime. So I don't know. I think it's worth a watch. And if you get kind of turned off at the very beginning by how maybe silly or weird it is, you give it a few more episodes. Don't stop at 3. I'd say go up to like 5 or 6. then give up if you don't like it.
Then let the Nightingale syndrome kick in.
Yes.
You'll love it. All right, Jason, how about you?
This is probably the most hand-wavy anime I've ever had to do in order to enjoy it. Because, like Jeremy said, it's a little confusing, or at least it's hard to, like, comprehend what's going on. Because you've got cutesiness, but then you've got gang war. And it wasn't until I turned my brain off and stopped trying to make sense of the world I was watching and just kind of go, okay, we've just got hyper violent cafe maids. Fine. And from that moment, I started to chuckle, and there were a couple times I actually laughed. It's an experience. Let's put it that way.
A little preface before my thing. I know almost nothing about the actual Yakuza and have never had a maid cafe experience. So what I know about them, mostly I learned from this anime. I mean,
They have hard lives.
Yakuza's come up in a couple of things. But with that said, I think the concept is really strong. And I went into that first episode with like, this concept's very funny. It's a very dark comedy. It's taking itself very seriously, but by doing so, it's utterly ridiculous. After the first episode, I'm like, I don't think this concept can work for 12 episodes. And I definitely started to. There's a couple episodes in there. I'm like, okay, yeah, we get it, the concept. But like Jeremy said, a little over halfway, I'm like, man, they are not backing down. They are all in. And the commitment, I respect it, and it starts working again. We've talked about it in the past that had really strong concepts, but they didn't feel, my opinion, the writers didn't feel was strong enough, and they like switched to other stuff, or they started using other plot points. And it was like, no, you had something there. These guys are not afraid. They're like, we're all in on Yakuza and cafe maids doing a fusion dance to show you how ridiculous both are. Sure. It worked for me in the end, and I was into the story. I was laughing a lot. Like I said, I have some nitpicks here and there, but overall, I do recommend it. I didn't think I would. All right. Your guys' thoughts on the opening and the closing?
I really liked the opening. The song was good. It kind of set the mood for the more darker tones of the anime. Actually, the OP is very much like the anime. It starts off dark and then it goes cutesy.
Yep.
And the raining coins and bullets on the backdrop of cafe maids was just kind of a great touch. So, the ED was somber and kind of like almost felt like the ending of a like some sort of crime show.
Mm-hmm.
Is basically how I describe it.
But you have to look at the words they're saying. They're all, even though they're singing like that, they're also like moi moi.
Yeah.
Kyun, kyun.
Good.
Yeah, definitely not my favorite. But yeah, I really like the OP. It was pretty good.
Yeah. So I love the OP. I love how it incorporates just their speech. Like a big thing from just watching the anime, a big thing about these maids is how they have to constantly perform and like act, pretend. And so they're constantly like, "Hey, welcome to the shop. I hope you're going to enjoy your time here." And so like that is part of the song. It's just all of them over top of each other trying to get your attention, make you happy and all this, right? Which is their job. And it to this super like peppy but also almost degenerating music. Like it's very dissonant and it's dark and it feels wrong. And so you have this overlay of their cuteness in speech combined with this dark melody that then eventually just abruptly, like Jason said, turns into pure cuteness. And but the song, the lyrics of the pure cuteness is like, we're gonna stab you and we're gonna kill you and shoot you with our love, and oh no, don't have any love, that's the no. You know, and it's like
what's the lyric? Simp for me or bam 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 in the cute section.
Exactly. Yes. And I was like, this is amazing. This is brilliant. And then the same thing for the outro is the sense that it's not like, I don't actually like the song in the outro. I don't. But it's perfect for the outro for this anime. like it matches so well. It's got all of the tone, even the imagery of it, where you've got like some of the main characters and they're just looking sadly off to the distance. It's like the single tone shots where everything's like bathed in a yellow light, and I don't know, very, very well done.
Yeah, well, neither of the songs are going on my playlist. I wouldn't qualify them as fire. What I walked away from each time I watched these was they go so hard. They bite into that concept just like the show does, and it's like all in. It's so, I don't know if I've ever seen it before. Like you said, the opening music, it's dark, but they're saying all these cute things, and then it becomes all cutesy, but they're saying all these dark things. The closing, it both has one character walking on the beach solemnly while the somber words of moi moi kyun. But they also have the main character maid who is standing in a very specific manner that as soon as you see her, you're like, oh, she's holding two guns or two swords. Like she's clearly armed, ready for battle with like her back to us and her arms spread out. And then the camera drops and she's holding glow sticks. And you're like, oh, she's ready for battle with her glow sticks, which then comes back in to the theme of the whole anime. And yeah, so like I said, they're not getting added to my playlist. I'm not simping for the songs. Don't bam 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 me. But these go so hard, and a lot of credit to them. All right, that's it. Before we go to spoiler section, we're back to regular episodes for a little while. And the next anime is going to be Zom 100. It got finished, so we're gonna watch it. This is a story about a guy whose life sucks so bad that the zombie apocalypse is nothing but an upgrade. For those of you who work in office jobs, just take it slowly, okay?
Yeah. Shaun of the Dead.
Yes. Very Shaun of the Dead. All right. So now we are going to our spoiler section for Akiba Maid Wars. If you are going to watch it, this is the time to walk away from this podcast, but you better come back. We'll gun you down, suckers. No.
Whoa!
No.
Disavow!
I'm going with the theme. Sorry. We will oinky miss you, masters.
There you go.
Okay,
Disavow!
Okay, before we even go into, I need to know about
you go, Jason.
Because I watched English dub, and they did. The actors are hit and miss, but the writing did such a good job of putting so many pig puns into everything they say, adding little snorts and stuff. But puns aren't equal between languages. Japan definitely uses like visual puns too because of the way kanjis are. So Jeremy, I need to know in the subtitles, how was it pun wise?
They were nonstop from everyone. Like every single cafe was going full bore with puns. Like you wouldn't get a sentence a lot of the time. You would have entire dialogue going by where like every sentence had one or two puns in it.
Yeah.
From the characters that were speaking. Yeah. Yep.
I'm ready. One of my favorites. I'm ready to take your oinker instead of order.
Or Axelmoron. This little toodle.
I wrote that one down specifically. That one was probably one of my favorites for the axolotl.
So hammy to see you.
So hammy to see you.
Are you having a good time or no? Are you happy? Like it's sometimes it didn't work, but like it worked in text.
Okay. All right. So it starts off in 1985, where we watch these Victorian dressed maids showing up at a cafe, and another maid runs out and shoots the leader of the group, and then we see one of our main characters holding her as she dies. That sets the frame. And then we come to our main story in 1999, where a young woman has come to Akihabara to start her job as a maid. This is Nagomi, our main character. Your guys' thoughts on Nagomi?
Heart of Gold, kind of too cutesy for her own skin kind of character. I think what I appreciate about her is, besides her moment of weakness that we'll get into later on in the anime, she sticks to her principles, even into older age, if you will. But this whole idea of what you guys are doing is not fun. And so we should do things that are fun. But also, like, killing each other is not great. So I think that's one of the things I appreciate about her. Is she brought this sense of straight man levity to most situations.
Yeah, that was the same thing for me. Is like when she shows up and the other characters are just taking things as they come. Like they're very used to the status quo of, people die, people kill. We're gonna get revenge. They're gonna get revenge. And she's as confused as I was. I was like, really? This is the world that we're building here?
Just a point of clarification, she does say, I knew maids got involved in violence. She just didn't realize it was at this volume. Just for the sake of the world, it's a known fact that maids fight and murder each other sometimes.
Yeah, I was actually wondering about that for a long time because I kept thinking, I don't hear police sirens. Then they brought in the police. And then later I was like, how is nobody reacting to this? And then they incorporate a few scenes where you see passersby and those passersby turn the other way. They just keep walking. So I thought they did a good job with that, but I find it very difficult to believe. It breaks my immersion a little bit. And I realize that this show doesn't require immersion. It's a parody. It's a joke show.
Right.
But messes with my head a little.
I'm actually kind of with you. She's probably one of my biggest nitpicks of the show. And to be honest, by the end, I'm rooting for her 100%. I buy into her character, and I don't want her gone from the show. But with the concept being, what if Yakuza but maids? So she's there because she wants to be a maid so bad, and I guess violence is going to go with that. I didn't really want the violence, but now I'm tied up in a world of violence. What's the Yakuza equal? And again, very naive, but who's coming to Akiba to I wanted to join the Yakuza for fun, and I can't believe I have to kill people. There's a disconnect between the concept and her character just in that little bit, because the whole thing is maids but Yakuza. again, but she's like, I'm just here for fun, and I couldn't think of who's like, I do want to join the criminal gang. Oh shucks, I don't like everything we're doing. Everything else works. The whole, we can do what we do without having to use violence to enforce it. Having honor and rules, all that stuff works with a direct translation. Her joining and staying and being a part of that, and you kind of you have to squint your eyes a little bit and just be like, just go with it. Just she's staying because she wants to stay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we see her go to her cafe, which is the Oinky Doink Pigsty, a pig-themed cafe with a panda. Why do they have a panda? Well, the panda was here.
A real panda.
So, yeah, I was about to ask, didn't they explicitly say, yeah, that's a real panda over there?
Yeah, they did. Multiple times.
Multiple characters do think it's real. Chief seems to know the truth. I mean, she saw Panda handing out flyers when she invited Panda in.
Well, and some people bring Panda bamboo shoots. like Panda's gonna eat the bamboo shoots.
Right. That I didn't realize Panda wasn't real until Chief handed Panda bamboo shoots and says, "I know you're not really a panda, so this means nothing." But handed it to her anyway. Anyway, so yeah, Nagomi is a new employee, but there's a second new employee. This is the maid from the beginning sequence. This is Ronko, a old 36-year-old woman.
Yeah.
I'm a little offended, anime. She's 4 years my junior. Wow. Anyway, your guys' thoughts on Ronko?
It's funny because in the first couple episodes, it's like they brought a soldier into their fold, and because of, if you know nothing about the anime when you walk into it and you're watching these first couple episodes, it feels jarring to have her there, for one, but for two, to watch the hyper violence that she goes through. And once you get past this is a comedy, she's fantastic because all of her lines are delivered great. I watched the dub, so her voice actress was fantastic. And yeah, she very, very binary. Oh, they hurt us? Well, time to go murder them. Literally. And so it was, and I think one of the things I liked about the world building is her presence was such a disruption to the order of what was going on. Just her being there, not even her actions. She was such a threat to the status quo that they were always being attacked. And I thought that was actually, I thought that was a real interesting part of the story. But I really liked this character.
Yeah, same thing. For a while there, it kind of seemed like she was the main character, and I know she wasn't. I know that it was Nagami, but Ronko had this sort of, she was solving every problem. She was kind of the linchpin of the boxing, of the cards, of she was getting them out of everything. And she was getting a lot of screen time. So it was kind of odd because to me it seemed like she was vying with Nagami for that position of main character. And I was okay with it. I actually liked her that much, enough that she could be the main character, even with her sort of constant deadpan blandness. That flavor was very good for her to have. So I don't know. I really liked this character.
Yeah, she's stellar. She stands out. She really serves the possible future of the primary protagonist, so that she doubles as a protagonist. I went through this and I was broke down by the system, and then now this youth is bringing her back to her old self. I agree with Jason, in the English dub, I complained some of the voice actresses and actors were really kind of phony, hammed in, you could say. But Ronko, the way she's cold and dead in almost every single line delivery, except for very specific ones, works very well. And yeah, like she makes the story work, and you know, carries Nagomi through a lot of stories until Nagomi's ready to really take her mantle as main character. So she's great, fantastic. So Jason touched on something, and I wanted to kind of link up with it, expand on it. One thing that's amazing is how well written the actual plot, that you don't even really need to pay a lot of attention to, because it's you get it anyway. But the plot is tight. The events of this first episode carry through for the entire series. Everything that keeps happening almost stems from this one episode. It's amazing. At the end, when we're having repercussions from this episode still coming up, and I'm like, oh, that was first episode character decisions. I gotta praise that they had a very tight sequence of events that they had very well planned out, even though you can barely tell because, you know, there's so much oinky doink, lovey wubby stuff going on.
That reminds me of, there's some after credits scenes, and it's not on every episode, but there was quite a few of them. And I love that they showed some of the scenes from different points of view, and gave you just a little extra context of why something happened or why something didn't happen. In fact, one of them just makes your heart break, but then you're like, oh yeah, that's right. These are evil people. So, but it's still, you still have a soft spot for it because, yeah.
So there's one more character we're going to talk about right now. We meet all the maids, the current maids of the Oinky Doinky, but they each kind of get their own episode. So we'll talk about them in their episode, but we need to talk about Chief, the boss of the Oinky Doinky, who has hired these two new maids and is literally the worst character I have seen in a long time.
Like,
your guys' thoughts.
She would slide in with Konosuba team so well.
Yes.
Yes. She's just consistently selfish while at the same time promoting how much she loves her team and that she would do anything for them, until the next scene where she throws them under the bus. She's my favorite character because she's just the worst, and in the best way. I think a lot of the comedy stems around her as being, you know, in this position of power, but then constantly the people above her just threatening her life at every moment. And like you can see she wears her stress on her face and her body language all the time. And it's so great.
Oh man,
Yeah,
there's one
I love this
scene.
character.
She's awesome. She's my favorite character too. There's one scene where like she is prostrating herself in front of someone and she's naked and you don't know why, and you're figuring, oh, this person made her do that as an act of humiliation. And then later in the conversation, that person says, "Why are you naked?" And she's like, "To show my sincerity." It's like she's almost hard to like comprehend sometimes, but it's still really, really good. And there's a kernel of redeemability because with as horrible as she is, as worthless as she is, she still sometimes comes through, and she's bullied into doing the right thing for the group at any given time. And so you're like, okay, in the end, she came through, so she's all right, but she was still worthless.
And it's funny how early they showcase this with the gambling, which we'll get into, which is one of my favorite things about watching her just go, okay, I'm in a bad situation. This thing may have cropped up that's good. Oh, but then I'm going to make the worst decision possible with it. But then something else turns around where, oh, this could be good. Now I'm going to make another terrible decision.
Yep.
So great.
Sabotaging herself every step. Yep.
So the thing about Chief, I just absolutely love her, that she's constantly behind on her dues. If you take a drink every time someone says that, you'll die watching this anime.
Yeah.
And the fact that she's not really actively working to solve that. She deals with it when it's directly in her face and about to kill her, and otherwise she's like, whatever. Like, and coming up with terrible ideas for it. Like, Nagomi, the brand new character, comes up with better ideas than the Chief ever does. Just fantastic you still love her anyway, even though she's so terrible. She's great. Speaking of not having her dues, they call him Creature Land.
Yeah. I
wrote him down as debt collector. I don't even think he gets a name. He's probably like one of the few male characters, and he's the only male character in Creature Land. He looks like a Yakuza thug for no reason. He's the only one dressed appropriately for the story.
What's sticking out of his backpack? There's like two
Right,
sticks
they look like rolled paper is what they look like too.
I have no idea
why?
what's back
Posters?
He shows up again, upset that the debts aren't being paid, and so he gives Chief a mission, and he's like, "Yeah, you gotta sacrifice.
Make your doo-doo. Make your doo-doos. Make your doo-doos." God, it was so weird, like, to have that so quick.
There's also a bit about him constantly drinking water over and over again until he gets to the point where I can't drink this much water. He just gets mad.
Why do you keep giving me water? Because it's so, like, it's cool if you immediately drink all the water you're given. So he has to do it because of the rule of cool.
So he's like, hey, you have to deliver this letter to the Wov Moonbeam Cafe. So Chief is like, well, I guess I'll sacrifice one of the new maids, and chooses Nagomi to die. Nagomi doesn't
know this.
No.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, go deliver this letter to this other cafe. A rival cafe. So in Akiba, there's the Creatureland group. So all these animal-themed cafes are technically all part of the same gang, even though the different groups still don't like each other very much. And then there's also the space-themed maids. And
made aliens.
Yeah, Wub Moonbeam is one of their main establishments. So Bronco's like, I'll go with her. And Chief's like, oh, I guess I'm losing two mates. Bye. They stop to get ramen, which in this anime means they're also getting a gun. The ramen guy gives Bronco a bag.
And Chief goes, hey, why don't you get ramen before you go die? Gives him some money.
And then they go and they deliver this letter. When they walk in, these space maids with rabbit ears are which confused me because I thought they were part of Creatureland for having rabbit ears, but they're not. They're cutting off a girl's ponytail as punishment. They're like all gathered around, have her pinned down to the table, like, we're gonna chop it off. Nagomi delivers the letter, and it basically insults their ears, calling them cockroach ears. And the maid gets all mad, starts slapping Nagomi around. This is basically a declaration of war sent on purpose. We find out this is all a big plot by the head of the Creatureland group. But Ronco shoots the lady, doesn't even take the gun out of the bag, just holds up the bag and shoots this lady maid right in the face. And then they go running out. And then we get the scene of one of the Oinky Doink maids singing this lovey-dovey song while Ronco goes through and murdering every single one of these Wub Moonbeam mates. In a very, like, it reminded me of synchronized swimming, the way they're falling in streaks. Now we have different thoughts on this stylized violence here. Jason, you weren't a fan. I'm a huge fan of it. I thought this was I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm into crazy, weird violence scenes.
Looking back, it wasn't so bad. But because I wasn't quite sure what the anime was at this point, I'm like, why is there no real gunplay? Like, why is this like synchronized swimming or like? And then something that enraged me at the time is Jeremy sent this GIF of Equilibrium, and I goes, "How dare you? I love that movie." And then I went and rewatched some of the scenes. I was like, "No, it's the same."
Yeah, it is.
I do not remember it being that campy. Oh man, that's a whole nother conversation.
For
What-
old men to have, but
Right. It's like I thought Equilibrium was so good.
I mean, even the
Concept's still
bad
good.
guys were like swaying back and forth.
But so no, I wasn't a big fan of the stylized. I'm still not. But it fits. I would have preferred to see like more of a action packed, like them actually doing a gunfight. But
Yeah, I know. So I was kind of in the same boat until the first Wuv Moonbeam. Golly, until the first one got killed. And the way that she died was so ridiculous and so over the top and so campy and silly because, Ranko shot her in the forehead. And so the blood comes out and it literally just like shoots up in the air and lands on Nagami. And it just keeps doing that for way longer than it needs to. And Nagami's like, oh, God, get it off me, right? And even when she falls down on the ground and it's all stopped, it starts up again. And so I was like, oh, okay. So this anime is going to be dumb. Like there's going to be some dumbness here. And so when the combat scene, and you guys had already kind of been talking about it a little bit, so I already knew it was going to be weird. And so when it started, I was like, okay, yeah, this is dumb. This is silly. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it didn't bother me either. It was a decision. It was a choice they made. And it fits the anime very well.
yeah, that was gonna say. I felt it fit this weird world that they've created, and they don't bring it back till the final episode. And I was really disappointed in all the regular scenes where they just like bam and someone dies. I'm like, oh, but like do it in a dance,
Right? Entertain me better.
They don't. That's probably my biggest complaint is that they clearly had that idea and were like, nah, it's expensive though, so we'll use it for the final episode. When they get back, Nagomi's like, okay, well, I'm gonna run away, but then she finds out Ranko is her roommate, and so she won't. She thinks if I run away, she'll kill me, so she's gonna stay. Also, really cool is that Ranko got shot in the arm at the very start of the fight and has that bullet wound for the whole anime.
Mm-hmm.
They have that bandage, and it affects later episodes. You don't usually see an anime care about a bullet wound for that long. 12 episodes straight. Or 11.
well, actually, there's there's fabric and mascot bullet holes that end up with bandages on them.
Yeah.
Well, that's true.
So
it's a real
I'm just saying,
phantom.
like the continuity is pretty good. Like one of them gets like through the ear of their costume, and so then they put a bandage on the costume ear. Okay.
That's true.
Especially for how silly things are. Not everything is silly. A lot of the story is taken very seriously. But of course, this is silly. But by episode 2, I assume bullet wounds healed, and then, oh no, the bandage is still there, and then a couple episodes later, it's being reopened. Okay, way to care. Weirdly, most anime won't do that.
This is part of that uncanny combination to me. It's like if you're gonna be this silly and parody things, to take these sorts of things so seriously, just it feels contradictory, like a dichotomy.
No, that was so not right.
Not a dichotomy.
No, stop it.
I already had a drink.
Fair enough.
All right. The next episode we have we see Ranko stitching up her bullet wound. We see the chief doing classic laying on the ground with a golf ball on top of her mouth as as the Kyuza guy is knocking the ball out as her punishment because she messed up the mission. She was supposed to piss them off and then die. And they're mad that she didn't do that. In this whole plot, Oinky Doink is a pawn that was clearly meant to be sacrificed and then took out major pieces instead. And now the chess player is like, why can't I get rid of this pawn? I don't like this pawn anymore.
Not only that, but like keeps putting things like, so they've clearly got this like well-crafted timeline that they need things to happen on.
Right.
And they either keep pushing it forward or setting them on a different timeline. And they're like, you guys are the worst. Well, why can't you do anything that we ask you?
Yep.
So Nagomi, she's kind of going through some PTSD. Anytime she sees red sauce, she's freaking out. But mostly business resumes to normal until the boss shows up one day. Oh no, before that. Nagomi is sent out to hand out flyers, and while some maids are very mean, she meets a nice maid called Narula, who becomes her friend and gives her like advice on how to be a good maid. And what was her phrase? Let's try our best, and I forget, something like that.
Do it, go, something like that.
Yeah.
Dream big, go. Dream big, go.
That's it.
Which becomes like dream big and oinky oink.
Yeah.
But then, Chief comes in and tells them we're going out of business. I went to go to a money lender to get cash, and I put up the cafe's collateral. And he didn't give me very much money, but he said, "Hey, you should try a casino, a maid casino." And she's like, "Wait, everything about maids is sketchy. Why would I try a maid casino?" He's like, "No, it's a good one." Well, it's his casino, and she lost all the money. And then she's like, "Wait, let's take all the money in the till and try again." So they all go to the casino and they all try gambling, and they all lose. And they're told, "Well, you can have one more chance if you offer yourselves up as collateral. You can play poker in the back room and try to win all your money back." And they find out that the maids that are sold as collateral are sent to deep sea crab fishing, like up in Alaska, where they don't give you a coat, like you're still in your maid uniform. The amount that these maids refuse to change out their maid uniforms, they walk out of prison still in their maid uniform.
Yep. Yeah, it's ridiculous when you see the shots of like the maids on the boat. All of the sailors are in like protective gear on the boat, and the maids are just in their maid outfits.
Commitment to the bit is strong.
Yes.
They all start losing. The big focus on this is the character Yumechi, who is the dark-haired pigtail maid. She's always mentioned as she's let go of her humanity because she will oinky oink herself so much just to get
in a good way.
Yes. Yeah, in a good way. I want to be like her. She's the most successful maid of the cafe as well, so she can basically do whatever she wants. Your guys' thoughts on Yumechi before we go into the rest of the poker game?
She was all right. I thought she had some really decent scenes, but her and the blonde that we'll run into, Sheepon. They're in the same boat as Chief. They're so fair weather, it's ridiculous. One moment they're hurrah, hurrah, let's go team, and the next minute it's like, we're all gonna die, let's just give up.
Yep.
She didn't have as prominent a spot as Chief did, but she was all right.
I thought they rounded things out well. Individually, they weren't nearly as spectacular as the other characters. Attention grabbing as like Ranko and Chief. Yeah, Chief. But I think they were both more interesting than the new maid that shows up, who just kind of has her arc and then just disappears. Like, isn't important really. So yeah, they were both all right.
She acts as a good like gauge to judge Nagomi's progress because she's the best maid, and you see Nagomi able to do the stuff she's able to do or win fights that Yumechi had lost. things like that. Otherwise, she's just another girl to say. This anime curses. Fair warning if you haven't seen it. It'll drop an F-bomb on you from time to time, but not a lot. It saves it for like very specific lines and uses it as a lightning bolt for comedy. And Yumechi gets some of those. So does Shippon, and we'll talk about in a little bit. So she worked well in her scenes. She's, like you said, just not as interesting as some of the other main characters.
I don't think I remember any. I don't think I remember. Maybe I just missed them, but I don't think I remember any F-bombs in it.
You don't
The
remember the
subs.
talking
yeah.
fish with the best F-bomb in the whole series?
No,
The talking
I don't think
fish
I
one was so
don't remember
good.
that. Yeah, I remember the talking fish scene, but I don't remember an F-bomb in it. Weird.
Yumechi, she's like third or fourth to go, and she even uses Bronco's chips so that she has a bigger pot to play with. And she's doing really good, and she's figured out the table, and she goes all in, and then she calls out, "You've been cheating, dealer. I know this the whole time. I'm watching the whole time. But that maid has a tell, and she always pushes up her glasses when she has a good hand, and she didn't push up her glasses, so I know I've won." And then the other maid's like, "Actually, I won." And she's like, "Well, I tried. I'm in the cage."
Good game.
Good game. And they all
All
lose.
resign themselves to going to Barren Sea.
Yep, they're all in the cage, and then that casino owner, the money lender, walks in, and he's like, "Yeah, I got you," and then Ronco just shoots him, and then game over.
See, okay.
So
This, to me, this screams role-playing session. Like, it's bad dice rolls. You didn't win. You lost. So then that one player who's like, all right, well, I don't want to go on the boat, so I shoot him in the head.
time to Leroy Jenkins, yeah.
Yeah. And this kind of writing works really, really good in this anime. I absolutely love how they did that, where in any other anime, you would expect Yumechi to win. But the fact that she lost, and then they only get out of it by horrible acts of violence, it fits so well. Very well done.
Yep, they have a giant shootout to get out of the casino, and then a grenade is thrown at them that Ronco throws back, and it blows up the casino. So they're free. The next episode is the Fight Club. So once again, low on dues. The debt collector guy shows up, and he's like, "Okay, well, I need one of your maids for a job," and they pick Ronco, and she's supposed to lose fights for him. But before we get to that, we find again Nagomi in the streets talking with her friend, and then there's they're anime toy makers, figurine makers, who are also gang related apparently. And they're planning they really love this figurine they've made, so they're going to sell off a decoy copy so that they can keep the real one.
The greatest background side character of all anime.
Yes. And at the same time, there's a Russian woman who's been sent to capture this figurine for her employer, who ran into Ronco and called her an ugly maid. Not okay. So Ronco goes to the fights, and the Oinky Doink is pretty happy. They're like, well, since we know the outcome of the fights, we'll be able to bet. But Ronco wins in the first round because she doesn't know how to not punch something as hard as she can. So she wins. And then this is the scene where Chief is naked and begging for forgiveness. Also, the boss who runs the Fight Club murders the toy guy for the figurine, and then comes to a deal with, okay, we'll have Ronco fight the Russian assassin lady I have to build her up as the next fighter, or they'll both fight through a tournament, and then they will fight each other, and Ronco will lose. Meanwhile, Ronco, I want you to take the body and hide it in a trunk of the dead body, which he then uses to frame Ronco to the other figurine makers. And Ronco finds the real figurine. None of it really matters. Look, there's a bunch of fights. Ronco ends up fighting the Russian lady, and she's not allowed to attack her the whole time. And then in the 12th round, because this Russian fighter has insulted her cafe, which Ranko can't do, she fights back. And then,
but even though Ranko's supposed to take a dive in the 12th round,
right? They start having a Naruto fight talkie battle.
Yes,
about
their dialogue is amazing.
What is a maid? And then, like, as they go for the last punch, they're like, "You're pretty cute. You're pretty cute too."
Yeah. They're knocked out. The Russian one's knocked out.
No. So yeah, Ranko knocks her out. Again, this is great. Like, I respect you. I respect you. Knocks her out, and then immediately jumps on her and starts punching her in the face as hard as she can. Just out of nowhere. It was like this
UFC
you won
style
the battle, end of Rocky, and then if Rocky just started kicking him in the ribs after the fight, just cause. That I was like, okay, this episode was kind of dumb, but that was a really funny moment.
And then Shippon's like, "Oh no, my organs!"
Yeah, because she knows.
The chief had convinced Shippon to go and sell, essentially put their organs up on collateral for money to bet with.
But they get the toy makers to figure out that the boss was the one behind the murder, so they go murder her, and they get to keep the figurine, and they sell it and make some money. And then the Russian soldier joins the cafe because she wants to be a cute maid too. Her name is Soya. Thoughts on her?
I just didn't like that she kind of got relegated to the background with Yumechi and Shippon, because I thought she was a great character. She had a similar like demeanor to Ranko and like worldview, and also that hard background of growing up with hyper violence. And so I was hoping that they would be more of a dynamic duo throughout that kind of do the jobs that no one else was able to. But besides, the role that she ended up playing was fine.
Yeah, they really built her up because of what they did in the OP. Before she was introduced, they always showed that character with scribbles all over her face, so you couldn't figure out who she was. And that just implied so much more value. It added so much more value and focus to her that after she completed her arc, like Jason was saying, she just kind of got relegated to the back and wasn't that important. And the fact that she was so similar to Ranko just made her kind of seem redundant a lot of the time. And I don't know if that was part of the parody, is like, hey, we've seen this in other anime, let's make fun of it by creating a character like this. It just didn't really land that well for me. She had moments where she was useful, but again, at that point, it was more she was useful because she was needed. Her skill set was needed for that moment, not because of her character. So I don't know. I think this one is a fail.
I don't really have anything to add other than in the English dub, they seem to have a lot of fun with accents. And so it almost seems like her whole role was to say the same cute things that everyone else is saying, but with Russian accent, and go for it. They do the same thing later with Australian accent. They have a character who goes heavy Australian accent, just saying, "Oh no, he shot me in the pouch," but no, not very Australian accent. I can't do it.
Yeah, a lot of that it's lost in sub.
Right.
Like, I mean, I heard the Russian when there were a few times where she literally spoke in Russian. It was when she was talking about her backstory, and I heard no accent there. That sounded like pure Russian to me, which was really cool. But but the rest of the time, I didn't really catch it. It was more of like in the subtitles, one of the characters, she would say something, and one of the characters would say, "Yeah, that's not quite right," and that was it. Like, that's the punchline.
Yeah. Okay.
Not quite enough.
Yeah, that's why I figured that was a dub only thing and not intent, because that is not what the subtitle version was going for. All right, in the next episode, the Creatureland group is sending out trainers to help the cafes get better. And the trainer that comes to Oinky Doink walks in and immediately fires Chief and Panda. They're on the street. And for the rest of the episode, they're just out there digging through garbage, living together. This is the scene where she's like, I have bamboo shoots for you. I know you're not really a panda.
That's what I got. I was like, where'd she get the bamboo shoots? She's in it.
Right? But what's
She's in an
amazing too?
alleyway.
What's amazing too is that like they didn't have any other options. Really? Like this is what happens as a manager. You have experience managing an entire cafe. Presumably you purchased the cafe. You don't have job skills that you could at least go and look for another job or anything. But I think this kind of goes hand in hand with her outfit, right? There isn't a single other character that I see in this anime that's related to the maids that is wearing like a suit instead of a maid outfit.
Every other
It's
boss,
like
every
she
other
doesn't
chief
care.
is dressed as a maid. She's dressed
Yeah,
in a businessman's pantsuit.
yeah,
No
yeah,
big accessories at all.
yeah. Without even like the suit jacket, she just has like a little pin, and that's it. And to me, that comes across as it's either a rebellion, like I'm not part of this bigger thing, or it's laziness. But I mean, that in itself is hard work, like getting that outfit ready. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's one moment in the entire anime that she actually wears a maid suit. That's it.
That's right.
The trainer is super harsh with everybody, and to the fact that the next day they all boycott the training. Like, we don't care, we're not going to get trained. Now, this trainer has been threatened that she'll be killed if training does not go well. So she's like, hey, maybe I've done this wrong. Can I speak to you individually on the roof? And then we'll decide if we can continue. And we see Nagomi go up there, and she tosses Nagomi off the roof, but then catches her and pulls her up and is like, this is the relationship between maids and Creatureland.
Codependency.
Codependency. And
she shows this wound on her arm from like rubbing it on the railing, catching her, and she's like, see this? We're willing to hurt ourselves to be, make sure you're taken care of. And it's like, this is super toxic.
Yes.
But
So
it works. Everyone, like, let's give her a chance. And basically go full on cult to the point where they're telling on each other and getting big spankings with a rod.
that
And
has
then
like
carving-
it's a Sailor Girl rod. Like it's one of their wands.
And then carving this huge log that got delivered to their roof.
So when I announced the winner of this anime, I used the gif of the two maids holding the chainsaws. And I was like, because I'm sure the next scene is them chopping through bodies with chainsaws before we'd seen anything. I'm so disappointed. They're just carving wood. I've never had so much hype for a moment that just bleh. It's my fault, I read the GIF wrong, but whatever. We need to talk about Shippon. This is her episode. Your guys' thoughts on Shippon?
Similar to Yumechi. I think she's got a bit more sass, and a little bit more airheadedness. I did like that she finally got broken down and ended up taking off her makeup and like dyeing her hair black again. That was pretty great. But
it's why that's so good, but we'll get to it.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Besides this moment, she's just kind of a side character. I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about her.
Yeah. She's very Valley Girl. Like I remember watching a video on YouTube a while back about a particular culture in Japan where there were young girls that would dye their hair blonde and they would wear like all these little pins and stuff. And yeah, I can't remember what they're called, but they had a distinct name.
Yeah. It's like that, but I'm pronouncing it way off. But it's looks like.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't think she's fully that, but she certainly had some of the signs of it, like some of the similar trademarks. And that was probably her most interesting feature as a character. Granted, she did have at least she was they're all very consistent. I will give them that. Her behavior was consistently aloof and consistently Valley Girl. So she was all right for that. But she just, I don't know, she's not that memorable to me of all these characters.
I liked her a little bit more than Yumechi. I think especially in this episode, we find out that the whole airheaded thing is a choice. She's actually smarter than she looks and more normal. The whole Valley Girl is a thing she wants to do. It's what's fun for her, even though it doesn't fit perfectly with the maid personality. So she's actually clashes a little bit with what she's supposed to be doing. But that's what's fun to her. And her whole point is I'm here to have fun. So she worked a little bit for me. Like I said, better than some of the other characters.
I did like that whenever a bad situation came up and they needed to do one thing or the other, she was always path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Or whatever was normal. So if it's like, oh, well, we need to murder this person, she's just like all in without ever being asked.
Yep.
In the final battle, when she's like, I had a bad horoscope today. Do you think that's going to be a problem? Nah, we got
in the sub, she's like, you think I'm going to die? I think we're going to die.
So she rebels against the train. She's the only one who doesn't fully buy in. And she tries to escape. And Ronko actually finds her and decides to help her. It opens up the fan in the kitchen so she can crawl out the window. And they open up the window. She looks out and she sees Chief and Panda eating out of the garbage. And she's like, no, I'll stay.
I love that Chief looks up and is like, yo.
Yeah.
Like, it's all just fine. Yo.
And that's the
So
moment
great.
she's like, yeah, no, I buy into the cult. Anything but being like them.
Yep.
And yeah, conforms and all that. But the day the trainer leaves, and they carved the big wooden sign that says Creatureland at the top. The day the trainer leaves, she invites Chief and Panda back inside, who bring a bazooka. And the other maids are trying to stop. They stop Chiefs, and then Sheepon grabs the bazooka, goes up and blows up the Creatureland sign, changing everything back to normal. Trainer comes back, nothing, no progress has been kept. And she runs away. Well, actually, she slaps Sheepon, and the Sheepon like slaps her right back, decks her down, and the trainer has to run away in fear of her life. The only thing to say is like these episodes 2 through 4 is where I probably struggled the most watching this. They felt they're setting stuff up. They're letting us get to meet these characters. None of it felt really important. Stuff starts coming back into play, especially from everything from episode 1. And that's when I started really getting into the series. So this is like Jeremy had said earlier, this is about where you should get your feel of the anime if you just make it this long.
Yeah, I think the in media res openings for all of these doesn't help too. It's too short. It doesn't give you enough to really sink your teeth into, and then I don't think it's done very well.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen in media res scenes where I thought, why? Don't stop it. This is dumb.
Yeah.
Like the last episode, it's literally just Nagomi being thrown off the roof. Like a 2-second frame of that, and they're like, "Oh, intro." And I'm like, I'm not that enticed. That you didn't lead up to it. You didn't build any drama for it. That's not working for me.
It was more like that's weird instead of, "Whoa, this is what's happening." I need to know more. Yeah.
You need to have that moment of, "Wow, how did I get here?" So that we want to go back in the story. Mm-hmm. Anyway, okay, they're all making paper flowers. This is birthday episode. Okay.
They only have to make 1 million each.
And then they'll be able to pay their dues. So Nagomi, looking for a way to make money, talks to her friend, Narula. And Narula's like, well, you guys could do an event. A lot of cafes do events, and that brings in a lot of customers. She's like, if you have someone with a birthday, you could do a maid's birthday as an event. So she takes that idea back, and they find out Ronko has a birthday in 2 days. She's going to be 36 old years.
So offended.
So yeah, Nagomi and Ronko start planning this event. Nagomi asked everyone, "Hey, can we get Ronko a cake?" And they're like, "We've been eating bean sprouts for a week, and you want to buy a cake? Get out of here!" They're all mean to her. This ends up being a lie. That makes no sense because she's not the birthday girl. Why not tell Nagomi about the surprise cake?
Yeah, I was confused about that too.
Anyway, Ronko and Nagomi go to a different cafe, another Creatureland cafe, so associates, and ask, "Hey, can we hand out flyers for our event?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure, but do you mind helping wait tables?" And they're like, "Yeah, we can do that as well." It's a ram theme maid theme, and they're handing out flyers. But then one of the maids is like, "Wait, your birthday's today? My birthday's today, and you're old, and you suck, and your flyers suck," because they're printing it on this barely enough ink to be able to read it because they're so poor. And they're getting harassed, so they're like, "Okay, we're gonna leave," and they do. But then the rams attack them and abduct them, and then when they wake up in a giant wooden vat barrel.
Basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a huge barrel vat.
Yeah.
Is this a thing? Do we have just huge wooden barrel vats?
I
Don't
was just waiting
so.
for a small puppet with a weird face to go riding by on a tricycle. Like,
somebody in
Yeah.
in like one of those head contraptions.
do you want to play a game?
Exactly.
So this ram girl admits that she murders anyone with her birthday. So she's the only maid with this birthday. Only maid. She murders maids. She also has a little sheep, and then that like red liquid starts coming in. It's implied they're grinding sheep into this vat,
Yeah.
and then she throws the sheep at their head. And I'm like, what did this sheep do? Is it his birthday too?
Yeah. And it's got a little bow on it too, so it's clearly a loved sheep, right?
Right,
Like,
which is their theme
their
too.
mascot. Yeah.
And throws it in to die. But it ends up being tomato juice. The other maids, thanks to Panda, realize that something's gone wrong, and they break in, battle the ram maids, and end up saving. Nagomi's gone under, but they end up saving. I did like the scene of Ronko trying to drink the tomato juice to save. Nagomi. They bust him out. The sheep's all red. They come out, and the birthday girl's like all pissed at him. So they shoot. Who shoots her? I don't think it's Ronko. I think it's Sheepon.
It's either I think it's Sheepon.
Like,
I was gonna say it's either Sheepon or Yumechi, but I think it was Sheepon.
Yeah, shoots her in the gut, and they leave her to die. Except for Panda takes all the money. Profitable episode. And Chief is like, I don't want to know where this came from. This is great. They get back, and Chief's like, "Hey, I got the birthday cake," and they're all happy, except for there's a piece missing because Chief is the worst.
Literally.
And then instead of the normal ending credits, we get Ronko singing us a birthday song.
Yeah. Which is very important because it's the same song that gets sung in the last episode.
Oh yeah,
It's a Ronko song.
Good catch.
Yep.
An alien maid is being released from prison. This is Scarlet Supernova. And she's pissed. She wants revenge for Wuv Moonbeam. And the alien maids have basically settled for peace at this point. She's demanding retribution. But she first goes and gets some ramen, and Ronko's there in the ramen shop, and they talk about how the old ways are better and the new ways suck. Because we stick with old ramen noodles.
Not that dipping noodles.
Also, the Creatureland is demanding that the Oinky Doinky make amends for the murder of Wuv Moonbeam. So the chief goes back to the maids and is like, "Yeah, we're being sacrificed. we're gonna be killed." Narula, who's part of the space group, alien group, whatever, Nagomi decides to become sisters with her at the behest of Chief. Chief's like, "Hey, if that's your friend, join a sisterhood pact." And Ronko's like,
Chief's terrible.
Yeah. Ronko's like, you shouldn't do that. That can have effects you won't see coming. And she's like, "No, I want to do it anyway. That's my best friend." So she goes to Narula, and Chief oversees the thing. They drink ramen from the same bowl, and they become sisters. Then Chief's like, okay, can she spy for us? And Nagomi's like, wait, I thought we were just becoming best friends and sisters. She's like, yeah, no, we need a spy. They're going to come kill us. We need a spy. Nagomi does not ask her to do this, but Narula does it anyway. She puts a note on a flyer and warns them they're coming for you. And then because of that, the police go talk to Scarlet Supernova and are like, hey, we heard you might have something going down. So they have to pay off the police, which means they lost money and realize there's a mole. Everyone goes looking for Narula, who's now in hiding as the mole, and
still wearing her maid outfit under her cloak.
Under a cloak, yeah.
Real good hiding job there.
Nagomi and Ranko find her, but then Scarlet shows up, and Ranko's like, "No, they have to fight this out for the honor of their maidhood." And I'm like,
let them fight.
Yeah.
Do they? You murdered 100 maids in the first episode. I feel like we just start blasting. It'll be fine. But yeah, so Narula gets murdered by Scarlet and dies in Nagomi's arms.
Oh, you mean Harley Quinn?
Yeah. With the two colors. This is not where I saw Narula going. When they first introduced Narula and she started talking to Nagomi, I was thinking that Narula was actually going to turn into a horrible backstabber.
I thought so too.
Yeah, that seemed like, fitting for this story. So this whole time I was just like, wait, what? Where are we going? What? I had no idea what was going to happen next.
And Narula's party message to Nagomi is be the maid you want to be. Basically saying, forget all this violence, be a happy, fun maid.
Mm-hmm.
But a week goes by and Nagomi doesn't return to the Oinky Doinky. And sorry, I know it's like the 8th time I've said it, but it just hit me for some reason that time. Ranko ends up finding her dressed. She's working for a ninja cafe, which is also apparently a thing.
But they're not in the wars. Like
they're not in the wars.
Bit of stealth and stuff. But they're not the ninja cafe of fighters who even like train to fight are not in the gang wars. It's so weird.
And Nagomi is a target, so it also helps her cover her face and keep her in any secret, even though Ranko's talking to her and it clearly knows it's her. And Nagomi's like, my friend doesn't want to be a maid anymore. No, my friend does, but anyway, she's not happy. The regulars of Narula come to see her. These guys will actually show up a lot. They become her regulars and bring her a picture. And then the ramen shop guy talks to her and tells her about how sometimes you have to change and
to stay the same.
To stay the same, yep.
Which, so mean, okay, yeah, I guess technically that is true. If you have to change to maintain a value within your ecosystem as the ecosystem changes. But it just sounds so weird when you're seeing it from a guy who's feeding you ramen. It just feels like you're visiting your yogi and being told nonsense, right?
The ramen guy also has some great bits. Because like this one, he's feeding her ramen and then he's like leaving. She's like, wait, did I just eat someone else's ramen? Like he was delivering ramen and saw her and stopped and gave it to her. The aliens led by Scarlet attack Oinky Doinky and they have this big battle. One thing that really bugged me is that Oinky Doinky only has 6-shooter revolvers when everyone else is bringing Uzis and shotguns to the battles and there's like 6 shots at a time. Also, it's a really dumb looking gun in my opinion. It's just not cool. It's like one of the uncoolest looking guns ever.
Revolvers?
What about the Wild West?
I love cowboy revolvers. They don't look like this.
That's true. This is like much more snubby.
Yeah, the snub nose revolver is just, it's not cool to me. It's lame. It's a weird opinion I have about things that don't matter.
Smoking.
There you go.
Nagomi joins the fight as a ninja, using ninja techniques that she's been practicing on a dartboard, like throwing shuriken, and manages to disarm Scarlet, and they're able to win the fight to the point where Scarlet is pulled away by one of her maids, and they flee. Ronko and Nagomi go after her, and she calls the boss that Spaceland has a boss, but Scarlet's been ordering her around and basically being like, we're going to do it my way. She calls her, and that lady's like, actually, I've made a deal with Creatureland, and we don't need you anymore. You're cut out from the group. You're way too violent. We don't need you. And then Nagomi faces her, and Ronko's going to kill her. And Nagomi's like, no, we're not doing any more killing. We're not going to be those kind of maids. They have another talk no jutsu scene about what a real maid is. Nagomi smacks her down, which was cool, and then she just walks away. But then she walks straight into the space alien maids, and they shoot her dead, like 100 bullets. Bam, 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 bam. She dies. And then Creatureland absorbs the alien maid group. All right, so now that they've been absorbed, they've been renamed. These formerly space maids are now axolotls, or as in part of my French, asshole toddles. As the other maids call them. These axolotls are still very upset though with Oinky Doink. So the boss, the big bad boss of Creatureland, orders that they play baseball together. And so in this episode, we get a baseball game, which is mostly an excuse to run up and start rushing the mound and fighting each other and hit each other with bats. Nagomi gets hit over the head, but she is insisting that we play this game fair and square as good maids should. And so no matter what happens, she's always like, it was my fault. Don't worry about it. Let's quit fighting. She keeps yelling at the group, quit fighting. What are we doing? And Ronko starts getting into it, and Ronko takes over pitching at one point. It starts playing fair, and the other maids start, this is good. So the chief of the axolotls is like, I'm going to go out there as a pinch hitter, and basically uses an excuse to rush the mound. But as soon as she does, the axolotl mascot runs up behind her and knifes her right in the back. Who we find out is actually the maid that was with Scarlet Supernova that helped her run away and had been sent away. So she's getting revenge for her boss, which the axolotl maids then murder her immediately. And the debt collector guy is there, and he's like, well, I guess the game has to end. And the axolotls, who have now gotten into the spirit of the game, are like, no, they're not dead. They're fine.
And the other team is like, oh, well, if they're not dead, let's just keep playing.
Let's just keep playing. Everyone knows they're dead except for Nagomi, who's like, her skin looks a little rough. I hope she's not too much in the sun.
I love how, I think it's Ronko, but somebody says, couldn't they have propped her up a little better than that? Because the boss is like, kind of, sagging in her chair, just starting to look horrible.
Also, there's a joke where the Oinky Doinks, because they don't have enough members, have hired 3 Mexican transfer students to play baseball with them who don't know how to play baseball and just want to dance. They dance a lot.
Yeah. It's like it keeps cutting to them and they're just all kind of boogieing. And they're very happy. It is so weird. Out of left field. I love it.
And none of them speak Japanese, right?
Yeah. All they do is say, hola, hola, hola.
So, but the Oinky Doinks end up winning the game. And everyone's satisfied that they had a real baseball game. And to the point where they do that thing in Japan where they line up together and they sing a victory song. And they're still propping up the boss and the assassin in the victory line.
Yep.
But then our big bad villain, Nagi, confronts Ronko. And we find out this is her former sisterhood that she had made the pact with. That they had been maids together under the assassinated, that's the word, maid from the very beginning. I'm tired. Try it.
Almost there.
Yeah. Also, this is my favorite episode. I love this episode so much. But yes, she confronts her. So we need to talk about the villain, Nagi. Your guys' thoughts?
I think she played the villain part very well. And I Actually, it's so funny. There's all these nuggets of really cool storytelling and wisdom throughout this entire anime, and we get a really interesting one with the ramen guy, where he talks about her motivations for power and how it's this um, conflicting desire to have a place of belonging and to have friends. So she seeks power for that purpose, but the power is what keeps her away from friends and having a place that she can call her home. Um, which makes for an interesting uh villain, because this character also used to be best friends with Rumko, and you know we're all rooting for Rumko throughout the entire thing, or at least I was. I
Mm.
I was all in for her to succeed. um so their relationship also shines through really well, uh as far as the conflict that's going on. um and so yeah, I really liked her as a villain.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with all that. Just as with the other ways that they really stuck to their theme and stuck to their characters, and when they made a decision to do something, they didn't deviate from it. They did the same thing with her, and I love what they do in the final episode with her as well, because she doesn't change, and some people don't. And in a lot of stories that go the way this one does, the way that they set things up in the final episode, you expect change. All the signs are there, all the tells are there. And for them not to give it, to me, that makes an even better villain, because I find that very believable. So yeah, I really like this character.
Yeah, probably my only real complaint was, while I like what they did, that the old ramen guy explaining it is a little bit of tell rather than show.
Mm.
But I still like the whole concept behind her. Again, it's someone who is lonely, wanting someplace to belong, sought power for it, just like Jason explained. I just kind of wish they hadn't said it directly, but it's not that big a deal. And yeah, she's a great villain. Also, what you said, Jeremy, about they clearly show her having doubts and remorse, and because violence has become her second nature, she's only able to lash out with violence to try to get those pushed back away, which ends up being her downfall. Good stuff. The next episode, we find out back in the early Meiji era is when the maids really came into power, and there was this one maid who was the head of the maids, and now they do a festival every year to honor her, and whoever wins the festival gets to be named honorary her for a year. I didn't write the name; it doesn't actually matter. I hope it doesn't matter. I hope it's not like a real. No.
No. Omeda, I think.
This is a Creatureland only event, but that's fine because now only Creatureland is the only thing that exists.
I really thought this was going to be more of a tournament arc. The way they described it sounded like it would have phases and everything, because you'd have all these different maid groups, and I was like, "Oh, okay, the tournament." But it didn't turn out that way. It was all dealt very quickly.
My favorite part, which I think Troy's going to probably come up here in just a sec, but I have to say it, is Creatureland bouncer dude comes in and is like, "Hey, read the rules. It's super important." And she just immediately disregards them.
She looks at him. She's like, so many little. It's so little words.
It's so many words.
I also love how he gets in the elevator and he's like, "Don't forget that," and the elevator door shuts. Like, this elevator does some serious time in the gags. It helps a lot.
So the competition is all the maids are going to have food vendor stalls, and then whoever does the best gets they get in a line, and then they have to climb a figure of this lady, and whoever gets to the top first gets to be named honorary her. It's a huge honor, plus it brings a lot of business in for the cafe, so it's a big deal. Nagi has decided that her maid group, the Lions, are going to win this year, and so what Jason's alluding to is debt collector guy has been going around telling everyone, here's the plan. Here's the game plan. The Lions are going to win. Look like you're trying really hard. Make it competitive, but everyone, we're helping the Lions win. But Chief doesn't read it, and then they get thrown out. And so when she gets called, he's like, you're going to follow the rules, right? She's like, yeah, going to follow the rules. Hangs up. Where did that go? What are the rules? Doesn't mention that there's rules to the maid group. Decides to go fishing. The whole episode is fishing. And again, the fish comes out of the water and starts talking to her and tells her that like it doesn't effing matter. And so she just doesn't get involved. Doesn't care. Thinks about running away. I can just start my life over.
Didn't last episode she's like her life's being threatened? She's like, man, I didn't get a chance to even go fishing. And so this episode she decides, you know what, I'm gonna go fishing.
Fishing.
Yes. I loved that.
To kind of summarize what happens with the rest of the maids, they have to sell pig feet. Doesn't go well, so they end up in the back
It's
of
got
the
great
line.
collagen though.
Yeah.
They get harassed by the other maids, and Nagomi tries to like sell away from the stall, and then she gets like beat up, and they have to apologize to the other maids for stepping out of the line. They have to be the bottom rung. And Ronko's like, do we have to be the bottom rung? And they're like, oh, yeah, let's try. Let's try our best.
On the map that's given to all the people that come to buy stuff, that they're the porta potties.
Yeah.
Okay, now, to be fair though, I mean, what gets more action in a stall a day than the porta potty? Like they're gonna get traffic, is what I'm saying.
They did have like almost 30 people come through. They could have sold some pig's feet.
But yeah, so they're in the back, but when they say go, they're like, screw it, let's go. And they cut through the line and run forward. They start brawling their way up the statue, and every other maid group is like, no, seriously, stop. We're trying to help you. You need to listen to us. And they're like, you just think we're oinky doinky stupid. We're gonna do this.
Oh God.
Nagomi gets to the top with the lion lady, and they're battling, and then Ronko shows up and saves her and carries jumps down with the lady in her arms. So Nagomi gets to the top and plants the flag, and they win for the year. And Nagi's like, what just happened? But yep, Nagomi's named the honorary one, and everyone's excited. The Oinky Doinks are on the map. They matter all of a sudden. And the final scene is Nagi shoots debt collector guy dead.
I was so sad.
I didn't see that coming at all.
Oh.
I thought he was gonna have to like punish Chief, but no, he offed.
Yeah. I thought this was an opportunity where Nagi might show some change in demeanor because she did say, we'll see where you guys go from here when she gave the reward. And so I was like, okay, maybe she's going to value effort because that's what she's supposed to be creating, right? She pretends that she's creating an environment like a meritocracy where they're going to struggle and they're going to rise to the top. The strongest ones will. But that's not what she does. She sets everything up so that the cards fall the way that she wants them to. So I was kind of hoping that she was going to value their effort instead of, undermine them and just seek to remove them from the equation. But of course not.
Nope, she's the worst.
Yep.
Well, no, she's second worst. Chief exists.
That's true. Different kind of worst.
So in that episode and in this next episode, there's a man in a trench coat who's been coming to the cafe and has taken a liking to Ronko. He's always her customer. He bought pig's feet and gave her acorns, a pig's favorite food. It's so weird that they like. It's such a compliment that you treated me like a pig.
Right.
Anyway.
Remember, you got to lose your humanity.
Yeah.
Humanity.
Business is booming, and he asked Ronko out on a date, and all the other maids are like, "Oh, he likes you. Are you gonna fall in love with him?" But Chief's like, he's a banker. He wears a trench coat and carries a briefcase. We have already found out he's an assassin. He murders maids. But Chief, who's so smart, that's a banker. You need to go on a date with him. That's gonna be easy money for us. So yeah, The other maids get, give her a makeover, get Ranko ready for a date. But meanwhile, Panda is trying to stop her, like get in the way, slow her down. But she ends up going on a date with this guy. They have a great date, and at the end of the night, he asks her to run away with him and kisses her. And then he leaves, and Panda shows up and takes off her head
with a gun.
And confesses to Ranko that she's the murderer from back in the 80s who killed the head maid that Ranko served under.
Also, this entire time, there was a good indication that it was a person in there, mainly because of the mouth of the panda. But there's also a side of doubt that that a real panda? Like this entire time, up until this scene, I'm like, oh, okay, so it is a person.
Yep.
So she tells her backstory about how she thought this would get her a huge promotion and moved up in the maid world. And then that assassin who had been her number one customer tried to kill her. She ended up getting away, hit by a car, and then disguised herself as a panda to hide, and has lived as a panda ever since. And then eventually Chief just like, come in to my cafe because I'm the chief. Who cares?
Like logic, like if your brain isn't turned off by this point, like you're going, okay, she's in the panda costume. No one knows who she are. Can't she just skip town and go like back to her relatives or find a new life somewhere else? No, she sticks around this area.
And what does she do? And what does she do all day? She sits on a tire and lays on a tire that's suspended from the ceiling. Like
she lives as a panda.
Lives as a panda. It's so weird. Like, what would that do to her psychologically? Like, that's just so wow. Like you said, you got to suspend your brain. You got to turn it off.
Ranko, who I kind of skipped it. Ranko was in prison, and that's why she's rejoined the maid world at such an older age. She had tried to get revenge and had murdered people and went to prison for it, and now out of prison. And Panda was like, "Oh, that's the lady," but has wanted to help her, and so is confessing and letting her know that guy is an assassin and he's here to kill you. Ranko
didn't she also reveal to her that it's at this point that her maid sister is the one who put a hit out on?
No. It's in a minute. It's in a minute.
Oh, okay.
So Ranko takes the gun and shoots her, but then we find out actually just shot the head of the panda, and says, "I'll take care of the assassin." Goes home, and then the next day she sees Panda again, now with a bullet wound in his head. But Panda says, "Oh no." So Ranko goes to meet the guy with the ticket. She is implied that she believes him. She's going to run away with him. We see him, like it flashes through his day, getting ready, buying something, and going to meet her when he said to meet her, and calling someone, implying that like he's going to finish the job. And it's implied that he's been hired to kill Ranko. He has been. Before he gets to her, Panda finds him and shoots him. When Ranko realizes he's not coming, she goes back to Oinky Doink. She had said goodbye to Nagomi, but she comes back, and Panda's there, and Panda says, Nagi's the one who placed the hit all those years ago and placed the hit on you now. And then, after the credits, we get a scene from the point of view of the assassin. We get to see his phone call where he tells Nagi, I'm not killing Ranko, I'm running away with her. And then when he was shot, he was holding a ring that he had bought for her.
So sad.
It's good. Yeah. It's tragic. I kind of liked it better before the end credits where it's left up in the air. Because it's such a dark world that it kind of made sense to not know if she could have trusted him or not. I get why they went for it. It's even, it hammers in the tragedy of it. But I kind of like just that up in the air of it's a dark world and you don't know if the person who loved you was going to kill you or run away with you.
Mm. I think I see it too. There was enough because he asked her after she shot him. He's like, "Hey, let's chat for a bit." And he leaned against the wall. So like he had something to say He didn't try to struggle or fight back.
Right.
There was enough room for that possibility that he wasn't going to kill her. I think I agree with you.
Oinky Doink still doing great with customers. Like, Chief, can you help? No. I guess I could hire more maids.
And she's fanning herself
With
bills.
The reason they're so busy is because they won that prize. Again, it's a huge boost for business. Then Panda has been murdered, and I didn't get this joke. So it ends up not. Panda's not actually dead. They just took the suit and pinned it up, but instead of saying radio, now the sign says something else. But I couldn't read it. They don't say what the new sign says. And I bet it's a really great joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, the person who wears Panda puts the panda head back on, is like, guys, it's me, the Panda. And there's a note on her head which says that Oinky Doink has been removed from Creatureland, just disbanded, which means they are now no longer under Creatureland's protection and in mucho danger. That was a callback to the baseball episode.
I was going to say, the Venezuelans are back.
Were they Venezuelan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought they were Mexican. Yeah. Also, yeah, the bandage and the other friend was murdered.
Yeah. So the boys came to see Nagami.
There you go. Yep.
And there were only 2 of them this time.
Yeah. So because Nagomi is no longer part of Creatureland, the other guy had been talking about how great Nagomi was at a different maid cafe and has now been murdered. So her usuals, her regular customers are like, we can't come back anymore. And then when they go inside, the customers they do have, other maids show up and just start harassing them, forcing all customers out of Oinky Doink. So Ronko decides that she's going to make this right. She's going to confront Nagi. And so they all have ramen with her. And Nagomi's like, we'll do this together. We have to do this together. And Ronko pulls a gun on her and is like, are you ready to die? And Nagomi's gets scared. So Ronko's like, I'm going to do this all myself. And no one else wants to help. And then the noodle guy, ramen guy, is like, you guys don't know how happy she's been with you and how much she's protecting you. So in the morning, they do decide to go with her. And come up with a plan. So their plan is they capture the head of the lion group, which remember is the group that Nagi officially is part of. But that's not who they captured. They captured the other boss of lion. And that gets all the maids sent to murder them. And literally murder them, not save the hostage. They're gonna take her out in a blaze of gunfire if that's what it takes to wipe out Oinky Doinky. But Ronko and Nagomi, they sneak into Creatureland, even though they get caught anyway, and are taken before Nagi, who is like, okay, well, you can join me, Ronko. Just come to the side of violence, which at this point, Ronko is pure non-violence. She has accepted Nagomi's way of maid life. And she's like, and so Nagi's like, kill Oinky Doinky, and you can join me. And Ronko's like, no, take my life instead to protect them. This scene's a little weird because like Nagi's constantly switching her mind. She's like, cut off your pigtail, murder her, stab you in the hand. Oh, you're all pathetic and weak.
No, and this is a great. I thought it was a decent scene because it showed just how flustered Nagi was.
Right, she's trying to exert power wherever she can, right?
And she can't. She's just struggling to exert any power on these two because they're just not bending to her will. So even though they're going the non-violent and the passive way and apologizing and like, hey, we will work with you. She's very upset that even through threat of violence that they're not just doing what she says or, dying.
Yeah. There's also a sense of jealousy and tragedy and sort of emotional connection that she has with them because, she asks like, what is it? What do you love so much about this person? Why do you care about Nagami? Why do you care about Oinky Doink? And it all stems back to where Oinky Doink is, and that it was the same cafe that the two of them were in, and that their mentor was there, that chief lady, right? And the fact that Ronko says that Nagomi reminds her of that lady, right? And so we see there's here, and also at other times we see flashbacks that Nagi is having, and it leads you to believe that, and maybe it is, Nagi is dealing with those, and it causes her to pause. It causes her to change her mind and, adjust what she's having them do, because she's also dealing with that side. There's like this, I keep looking for the word, trauma. There's this trauma that she's dealing with internally that she doesn't even know or probably want to acknowledge it. And so, yeah, it's an interesting scene.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to come down on it. Just in a recap way, it's gonna sound like I'm kind of bouncing around, but she is do this, do that. Okay, fine. You guys get to live. You would pay me 10 times the amount of that sweet honey money.
The honey money. I love it.
They didn't call it that in the sub.
Oh, they call it that a lot.
Really? They call it sweets money in the sub.
Oh, it's sweet honey money. We gotta get that sweet honey money, guys. So dumb. All right. Yeah, so she does eventually let them go, again with the promise of they'll have to pay 10 times the amount of dues. Meanwhile, there's a big shootout with the rest of the girls and all those other mates, and Chief has 2 amazing scenes in this. First is she sees the wall of maids and immediately starts putting the gun in her mouth, like, well, bye, everybody. And she's like, you're the boss. You're supposed to inspire us. You can't give up immediately. And has to, like, you were the cafe owner. You're both. Oh, yeah, I do own a cafe. So I'm going to fight. Yeah. And then after the piece is called, the kangaroo maid, who has a thick, heavy Australian accent, comes forward and says, hey, we just received word. We're done fighting. Let's not shoot each other. Let's not kill each other. And Chief goes, Imechi, shoot her now. No, Soya, shoot her now. She's like, she's unarmed. Shoot her. So Soya does. The kangaroo, you shot me in the pouch, and dies. And then Chief stands up. We're all done. We're not shooting each other. Is it a ceasefire?
Like, why? Like, why did you make her kill the kangaroo lady? There was zero reason. That's amazing.
Oh. The flip is so quick. Anyway, they all go back to Oinky Doinky. They're all upset. Oh, 10 times the amount. How we're going to do that? Oh, well, at least we get to keep being maids and life goes on. And then we cut to a scene of Ronko and Nagomi shopping for a new hairpiece because Nagomi's got ruined in the confrontation with Nagi. And it's not random. We find out this is the maid who I think was getting her pigtail cut in Love Moonbeam. But yeah, she comes up and stabs Ronko in the back, which again, so much of this has been because of that first thing. And then the sins of your past, even though she has changed her ways, the world that she was in comes calling. This was she dies in Nagomi's arms.
And this again also shows that the populace at large is terrified of the gangs because she calls out for someone to get an ambulance, and everyone's just like, even a dude with his phone out is like his flip phone. He's just like, no.
And also
not getting involved
in a moment of peak black comedy. If you're doing black comedy, this is how you do it. The newspaper, 36-year-old maid found dead. Like,
that's what needed to be emphasized,
right?
Yeah.
If you're not like paying attention, that kind of goes by as not a joke, but that's how you do black comedy. Like, wait, that's really stupid. Good. That's good. So episode 12, we see Nagomi now wearing her all black maid outfit. At one point she goes, I'm black pork now.
Yes. And I
Which
don't
I had
know,
to
is
look
that
up.
a thing?
I had to look it
Like-
up. There's black pigs that create black pork.
Okay. Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, we see her and wearing sunglasses. She wears sunglasses now and loading a gun. And then with the person who killed Ronko is brought before Nagi, and instead of punishing her, decides, okay, now we are going to war with Oinky Doink, and we're going to murder them. And then Nagome is searching for Ronko's killer. She beats up a cow maid, tortures her. That's where she says the line, now I'm black pork now. She goes to the cafe to take money from the till to start buying weapons, knowing now they're going to be under attack. Yumechi comes up and like slaps her, and she slaps her right back. And the chief opens the door and then immediately closes it. Not part of that. And then when she goes back outside, the cow maid has a bunch of friends, and they beat the crap out of Nagomi. And they only stop because the cops show up. But then Nagomi gets back home and goes through Ronko's stuff, has a big breakdown, and then I feel like I missed this when I was going back through my notes. How do her and the maids like come up with their final plan? When does she commit to the nonviolent path again?
We don't really see them make a decision. We just see them in the ramen place, and they're
Right.
all eating, and they all together eat her bowl.
Right. So I didn't miss a scene
After she
before the
half
ramen shop.
throws up into it.
Yeah.
I know.
That
I thought
was-
the same thing. I was like, "Don't eat that."
Ugh.
Okay. I thought I must have missed a conversation or something right before that where they rallied and like, okay, we're gonna. But yeah, they go back to the ramen shop. They order bowls for everyone, including Ronko. When she tries to eat Ronko's bowl, she throws up into it. Like spits it back out, and everyone's like, "I'll help you eat that." And they all eat it together. So the creature land group
Yeah.
shows up, and we start with Nagi going into the ramen place, and the ramen guy had told her backstory, which is that she had been raised by the maid that Ronko was worked under. They had been a violent group until Ronko joined, and because Ronko was such a kind-hearted person, they actually changed the group so they were non-violent. Nagi couldn't handle that. She thought it threatened what she had her home, and had her mentor killed. Basically, the woman who took her in as a parent too, so that she could take her place and then keep the violent ways going. So she comes into the ramen shop, and he's like, "Hey, I wish you and Ronko could have eaten here one more time together." And she shoots him and says, "Dipping noodles are the thing now, old man." And his last words are, "Goddamn dipping noodles."
That doesn't
Talk about
happen in the
dark
sub.
comedy. Yeah.
It didn't happen in the sub.
I
Interesting.
was so happy with that line. It's just like his weak voice calling out. I'm like, oh, that's good.
I like that.
They go up to kill everyone at the Oinky Doink, and instead of a battle, they're welcomed as customers by the pigmates, led by Nagomi. And Nagi's like, well, there's so many of us here. Let's see where this goes. So they all sit down with all their guns, and we see Yumechi make them a drink, makes them like say all the stupid. When I say oink oink, you go snout snout or whatever.
I love how she like
It'll make it
pushes
taste
Nagi-
better.
Yeah, and I love how she's like, they're not doing it, and so she has to like do it again and get in their faces and like be overly cheery, and so she like shoves Nagi's nose up to be like a pig snout and everything, and when she's done, Nagi says, "It's all right, I'll kill her first later." Like
That's
it was
right.
just-
When she pushes her nose.
yeah,
There's
it was so good.
also someone calls out like, "You're a stupid A word," and she's like, "No, no donkeys here, only piggies."
Yes, yeah.
After the drinks, which they all admit taste really good,
And they go, wow, she really has given up her humanity.
Yeah.
after Nagomi gets up and starts her song, like Jerry pointed out, this is Ronko's birthday song that she had sang, performs it for this crowd, and starts giving Nagi memory flashbacks and feelings. So she shoots Nagomi in the hip, but she keeps dancing. She keeps singing. And we again get a great stylized version where there's like guns being swung in the air to the beat of the music with the glow sticks all together, whether it's like interspersed them together, showing glow sticks are the only weapons you need. Tying back into the ending.
Yep.
Yeah, and so
And you have the girls like the other 3 girls that are still left, and even the chief. They all have like tears streaming down their cheeks as they're going through the motions of trying to be cheerful. Like, to me, this was one of the coolest scenes because it was it showed performance at its best, I think, where you have someone putting on a face because they know that's their job, regardless of how they feel, regardless of what they think, and
The show must
to
go
such
on.
an extreme. Say that again.
The show must go on.
Exactly. Like, this was the ultimate the show must go on, and it was so. I loved this scene. This whole sequence was just fantastic.
I'm gonna go one higher. Watching this, I was like, this is Spike Spiegel's last stand. This is, I gotta do what I gotta do my way. No, not, consequences be damned. And it had that intensity, even though we're getting I love you and you're so beautiful and I'm a oinky donkey pig. But it's like intense. And in fact, the lion lady starts clapping and Nagi immediately shoots her. No clapping.
Yeah.
And then Nagomi makes her speech about what a maid should be. And everyone is touched and moved. So Nagi shoots her like 6 times. And then Axolotl Maid, who was the one who stabbed Ronco, shoots Nagi in the head. Panda also had sharpened a spear of bamboo, and that comes flying in at the same time.
That was the best. Oh my god.
Panda from downtown.
I laughed so hard because I wasn't expecting it. Like, that was this the episode where Panda's sharpening the bamboo?
Yeah, at the very
Okay.
beginning, Panda's like...
Yeah, and that rule, if you see a knife in the first act, it's got to be used by the last. But
Yep.
End credits. I was like, what? End credits?
And they're all screaming Nagomi as the credits roll.
And then we get a future clip. Years down the road.
2018.
It would be 19 years later. Yeah. She's 17.
1999 to 2018.
17 to 36.
Something like that.
19 years,
20.
right?
So Ronco's age.
Right. Okay.
19. 19.
Akiba is now a peaceful area. Maids are just for fun. And we see the regular customers coming into a well made over oinky doink, like bright windows now, very busy. And they're there to see their favorite waitress, even though she's 36 years old. and Nagomi comes out in a wheelchair, and all her friends are on the wheels, and she's like, "Hey, how can I oinky doinky serve you today?" And that's the end of Akiba Maid War. Again, I almost would have preferred we stuck at just the end credits and went for the super dark ending. It's like maybe it was just too dark to end on, and but her dying, but obviously making a change in the world. Give him the Cowboy Bebop ending. I felt this was dark enough to go for it. All right, let's go to final reviews, guys. Jeremy, what'd you think?
So again, like, this show, it's so strange, and the journey through the episodes is very awkward at times, but there's a lot of laughter, and there's really well written script and dialogue, and like the puns, even though they're just so punny, sometimes it aches. You got to give them credit for that writing and sticking to it. Like, it's very impressive, and the way that they handled this last episode, and even just the episode with Bronco and her, potential guy dying. Just this is what we always ask for, right?
Yeah.
This is what we always say. Why don't they put some real stakes in it? Why don't they kill off the characters? And this anime did do that. So in the end, I can't give it a 5. I can't. It's just there's something so weird about it to me. But I will give it a 4. I'll give it a very high 4. It's good in its own way. It's very good. Oinky doinky good.
Jason.
I agree with Jeremy in some respects that this is its own thing and that it did it really well. For me, however, I didn't find myself like it was a good time, but it was a strange time as well. I would recommend this, but I don't feel it's that high of a score. So for me, I'm going to give it a 3. High 3. But I don't see it as a 4.
I love an anime that can show me something I've never seen before. This definitely qualifies. I still have my gripes. Nagomi, again, there's a disconnect between the theme and what they use their character for. Like at the end, what's the Yakuza equivalent of we should all just have fun and sing and serve our masters? I don't know what the message to the Yakuza is about that. I don't know they're going to agree.
This is no 91 days.
Right.
Yeah, I kept thinking about that too.
Yeah. And episode 2 through 4, I think, is a little rough. Those 3 episodes almost took me out. If I had a 3-episode rule, this might not have survived. But man, after episode 5, I got on board real quick and I was into it at the end. I'm going to 4. All right, that is our discussion of Akiba Maid Wars. We are going to keep the other anime that got votes still on a list, and then the next time we do votes, and we've been discussing how often we're going to do this. We do think we're going to do it more often than once a year. So keep an eye out for that. We'll be able to add new anime to that voting list that we have, but we're going to keep the ones that are on there that receive votes. So Jorgen Meister?
Jormungand?
Jormungand. The one that's going to fall off. It can be suggested again if someone really wants us to, but it didn't receive any votes, so we're just going to take that off. That's how I think we'll do that, and we'll see how that goes. So potential for the other animes to get up, but this, again, was really cool to have an anime that probably most people don't talk about. We're probably not going to get a lot of views for it, but I'm really excited that someone who wanted to have a discussion on this is going to get to have that discussion, and I hope that you will join us in our discussion. And to do so, you can reach us on our Twitter at Baka Podcast. You can come to our website, the Anime Baka Club. No, that's not right. Is it animebakaclub.com? That sounds good.
Yes.
Wherever you went to vote.
That's
you
right.
all voted, I'm sure. The animebakaclub.com. There's contact us button to join in the discussion, or wherever you found this podcast. If it's on YouTube, join the YouTube chat. We answer those, whatever. Again, our next episode is going to be Zom 100. And I think I've taken care of all of business.
Your promotion skills could use a little bit of fine tuning.
I will stab you in the back during a baseball game. All right, I think we need to say goodbye.
Disavow. Thanks for listening.
Moi moi kyun kyun. Moi moi kyun kyun. Moi moi kyun kyun. Moi moi kyun kyun.
Sayonara.